To be continued. Welcome to the Liberty UA channel. Dennis Eliseevich is here with you, an entrepreneur and active politician. Welcome, Dennis.
Hello.
Please subscribe to our channel, give us likes, write comments, share our video, and also subscribe to Dennis's channel. Let's recall Danilo Hetmantsev's speech today from the Verkhovna Rada podium. He says that the country is on the verge of a financial catastrophe.
In 2025, we did not meet 14 indicators of the program that was developed for Ukraine, and because of that, we missed out on almost 4 billion euros. Hetmantsev says that in this case, we are heading into such a financial crisis that we could even lose the country.
My question to you is, who caused this? Who is to blame for it?
Hetmantsev.
Tatiana?
Do you understand what the situation is? I want to warn people right away. I was just looking at the latest ratings. Obviously, they're half fake, that's clear, but there's the Hetmantsev party. I'll talk about this and show it on the stream. The Hetmantsev, Terekov, and Kim party is almost in second or third place, and they're already taking up half of the Verkhovna Rada. I want to remind you that Hetmantsev is an economic saboteur, an associate of Zelensky, who systematically destroyed Ukraine's economy for 6 years. He was the author of all the most idiotic ideas. Today, likely influenced by a certain clan and finances, he switched sides and now presents himself as a major opposition figure, claiming the country is on the verge of destruction. Yet you were the one who led it there. I support everything currently opposing Zelensky, but that doesn't mean we should elect or consider these people. God, they finally saw the truth. For 6 years they didn't see it, and now they have. And right away on your channel, there's an excellent translation of Javier Milei's speech. Hungary said that political ideas differ from a politician in that he is not afraid to speak the truth right away before anyone else, and then the politician picks it up when it's already safe and profitable. So people, draw your own conclusions.
He can be considered the main beneficiary of this crisis. He is the tax hitman. That's what people called him. That's what people wrote when he talked about taxes. Now he says we're almost on the verge of catastrophe. It's truly a terrible situation if you put it in the context of what's happening right now. We're being told that we can't agree to these peace terms because if we do, it will be capitulation.
In your opinion, who will be held responsible if we don't accept these terms now, and in 3 months they become worse, and if it happens, let's say that we lose more territories?
And if we end up with even worse terms, then who will be responsible for that?
Well, it's all on Zelensky personally, on him. But you know, if everything goes badly, just as you said, and then Ukraine ceases to exist, or if something even worse happens to it, like it's torn apart, and then Zelensky is even put on trial and convicted, that doesn't make it any easier for me, I'll be honest with you. Even if he's torn apart, if Ukraine is gone, it won't make things any better for me. That's why we need to prevent this situation. And capitulation, as you said, they call it cowardly. It's capitulation. Maybe not accepting these terms now is actually capitulation. You know, for whom? For the nation, for the future of the country. That's surrendering the country's future, that's all. If you accept the terms, what they call capitulation, they can do that. It's Zelensky's capitulation, not Ukraine's. If these terms are accepted, Ukraine can expect security guarantees from Trump. That's what awaits Ukraine. There's a fund, and if the right choice is made and democratic elections are held, believe me, there's a great future ahead.
The girls are relaxing. We can't know for sure if that's how it will be, because Kuleba said today that if there are elections, Zelensky will be president again. This was said today by the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. If you pay attention to the fact that we are close to elections, there really are a lot of obstacles and questions. Zelensky himself talks about security guarantees. Security guarantees. He says this is exactly the Donbass from which we are not withdrawing troops. He says that Trump is making an ultimatum. Trump says, withdraw the troops, then we will give security guarantees. If you don't withdraw the troops, there will be no security guarantees.
He says, understand that the guarantee is the Donbass itself.
Can you change this? He twists and manipulates everything. There were negotiations over the weekend, and on Tuesday evening during the stream, I told everyone what the conditions are. And in general, it's not really anything new. But specifically, the next morning, Zelensky comes out, confirms everything, and of course manipulatively starts saying that these are guarantees. These are not guarantees. No, he'll just lose power, and we've already discussed this with you 100 times. It's all very simple here, and people really don't need to overthink it. For him, losing power means the end of the war. And of course, Ukraine, you understand, a peace agreement is not a freeze, but there will have to be a difficult decision made. Zelensky won't do any of that. We can't leave any festering wounds with Russia, any unresolved issues, or leave things hanging so that they can prepare for war again. Over there, their so-called God is already calling children banderites, preparing camps, and they want to start a new war. We need to put an end to this once and for all, become a neutral country, look at great countries like Austria and Switzerland as examples, focus on our own success instead of running around looking for enemies. And Putin and Lukashenko and Orban and Navrotsky and that one and this Trump. We need to calm down and choose a normal president.
Maria Maxakova protected herself today. There was a recording of her. She also says that our only option is to make a peace agreement and become economically independent.
But how difficult and hard is it to believe in fair elections?
Today, Trump published a post and wrote that Ukraine was involved in interfering in the elections that took place in America by laundering money.
And all of this was covered up by some involvement in the Green Deal?
Can you say exactly who from the Ukrainian authorities was involved in interfering in these elections, how and why? And if American intelligence found out about this at the time, why are they only talking about it now, today, and not a few years ago?
We can assume that this trump card was kept up their sleeve for the right political occasion regarding this situation. On February 18th of this year, a month and a half ago, Trump gave a hint in Truth Social, but it wasn't understood at the time. He posted something there. Roughly, the involvement of a foreign state was discovered, interference in the US elections. This is bad, and it will have consequences. That was a hint for Zelensky, but Zelensky's team doesn't know how to take a hint. And I put a photo of Zelensky there and said that someone needs to think about it. Today, the 26th, we're talking at night, in the evening, and already an article is coming out. Trump is referencing a certain media article where there's a mention of Tulsi Gabbard, the head of American intelligence. In short, the scheme is the main topic of the stream, and I'll analyze it there since a deeper dive now would take hours. So, in short, this famous USAID allocated money for green energy. The money was sent, the money was released, allocated, and then the project was shut down. But the money already had the money in accounts in Ukraine, and this money was used to discredit Trump. Well, look, just look at anything from before the war. All those who worked under USAID, like Bigusov, all the media, all the major media outlets in Ukraine, everywhere, Trump is bad. Even today, Trump is bad. USAID has already replaced some European funds. Of course, there's less money now, but Trump is bad. Musk is bad, a scoundrel, absolutely not, just like that. Election interference. But that's not all. That's not all, because there are a lot of internal stories there. And American intelligence has documentary evidence. And if Trump decides to play this card, the consequences will be terrible. And I know people want things to happen quickly. Why is he delaying? Why is he doing this or that? I want to tell you about Trump's character and behavior, and you can track and confirm my words. If Trump doesn't threaten but acts immediately, it looks scary, but it passes quickly. But if he threatens, gives a chance, a second, a third, talks, gives another chance, another hint, takes a long time to get started, but if it comes to the end, it will have a completely devastating effect. Iran was also warned many times. Maduro was also warned many times. This went on for years. And how does it all end? But the Maduro scenario is still a very mild option. I know, I'll explain on the stream what the legal consequences will be if Trump goes all in on this. But why did Trump suddenly bring this up? As you said, this was already happening in 2022, so why talk about it now in 2026, not a year or more ago?
So, American intelligence discovered this. American intelligence discovered it in 2022. It's interesting. Why is he starting to talk about it now, but not in 2022 or 2023?
Because they see Zelensky's behavior. And this public speech by Zelensky, where he basically showed his hand. I shared this as insider information. Veliky reported it from the negotiating table, but Zelensky openly admitted all of it now. Regarding Donbass demanding security guarantees, this isn't happening for no reason. Put this together with Trump's speech today, where he said, and the mayor said that Iran is not their war. Well, Ukraine is also not our war with Russia, and an ocean separates us. 2 hours later, Rubio comes out and says that Ukraine is not our war, it's the Europeans' war. I don't know, you see, by the time this video comes out, what will have happened by then? In a day or two, the viewers might already know more. But these are all links in the same chain, and these are signals. They're sending signals. And in this sense, Zelensky surprises me. Again, I understand him. He's in Zugzwang, he's cornered, but he should at least try to do something. I'm no longer talking about saving Ukraine. Let them save themselves. Just leave Ukraine and us alone so we can end the war and move on.
Holding elections is urgent and relevant. It gives us a chance and opportunity. Please subscribe to our channel for interesting guests and fascinating insights.
Especially since we are in a crisis. The shooting took place on March 25th in Odessa.
The media reported that the draft dodger was driving his car further when patrol officers stopped him, wanted to check his documents, and realized that he was wanted. He started shooting, wounded the police officers, but he was killed. The person died. If Zelensky hypothetically starts looking out for himself, how can the deputies save themselves? If the military, who will come from the front, this was not a military man, this so-called draft dodger, he was not military. If the military return from the front with weapons, what will they do and what will the deputies do? How will they look for, consensus? The deputies will anticipate in advance. That some of them could be in the place of a police officer. What are they doing for this now? They just need to step down. Or how can this be resolved?
Let's not worry about the deputies in this sense. Your question is good. First, let's look at this incident, what it could lead to, and then about the deputies. Let's start with the deputies first. It's simple here. In short, no one is going to shoot the deputies. From the military, from law enforcement, yes. From political opponents who love witch hunts, yes, the military won't touch them. Look, a real soldier, he took an oath to the people of Ukraine. He understands politics. He will never harm people or anything like that. He will mind his own business and provide for his family. Those who put on military uniforms and scare everyone on TV and then go work for some clans, they also won't touch them. Why? Messing with a current or former member of parliament or any other member of parliament is dangerous. There are much more profitable targets, not what Ukilian said. Something else over there, that's a much better target. Because it's like, how should I put it? Well, let's all go as a crowd, but a member of parliament, still I emphasize it's dangerous, so they have nothing to worry about. It's more likely someone from the people will act than the military as a group. This incident, though, is much more important. So, pay attention. He kills police officers, which I do not condone and I do not encourage anyone to do. But at the same time, I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all. And all of this was predictable. They immediately start pushing a narrative. Ukilian, it gives the impression that Ukilian is some kind of Putin supporter, a Russian agent. Let's translate it. A man who didn't go to the front. There are millions of such men. Only a minority went to the front. The absolute majority are not at the front. So when you call someone that, are you calling millions, 7 million men or 6? And from the president's office and Petrova and everyone else immediately start the story. Oh, and as an insider wrote this dumb trash Telegram channel. Russian intelligence services are preparing everything to start a civil war in Ukraine. You understand, this is just a typical Ukrainian primitive thing. Back during Poroshenko's time, they called it Operation Shatun. They brought the country to this point. It's already a civil war. I believe World War III has already begun. It's just not like before, where everyone fought everyone at the same time. It flares up here, it flares up there. There's a cyber attack somewhere, an embargo somewhere else. In short, these are hybrid things. This is a hybrid civil war. It flares up here, it flares up there. Excuse me, but when 10 civilians are fighting off 5 thugs with gas, with pepper spray, there's a fight, people are killed, people are maimed, people are wounded. Is that not a civil conflict? That is a civil conflict. It's just that if it turns into, like I said, 500,000 against 500,000, then of course, that's going to be a nightmare. It will be like it was in America or in other countries or in Spain. But these are elements of a civil war, and here the Russian special services don't need to do anything. They've already done everything. Our people have already done everything. And this is another signal to people. Just look at what they're turning the country into. And what do you think, regardless of whether you like me or what I say or not? Will this lead Ukraine to anything good? I always emphasize this, but obviously it will never lead to anything. With me, without me, whether you like it or not, this is just leading to something even worse, and it needs to be stopped immediately. Zelensky knows everything. Everyone knows. Even the lawmakers themselves come on air and say that Zelensky and Defense Minister Fedorov know about the TCC, about the bribes, and about everything else. The turnover of the TCC, this whole business, is $2 billion a year. According to my information, that's just one issue, these draft dodgers. There are many others here, like smuggling and various other problems. And these people are not interested in ending the war. This is the best time of their lives.
One of them, a person like that, is having a good time too. He hid 8 million hryvnias.
The head of the Territorial Recruitment Center in Lviv region registered a huge house, luxury cars, and land in the names of all his relatives. Now he faces up to 2 years of restriction of liberty.
But this might remain just a threat. And when I asked about these deputies, I read a lot of information about what happened.
And people are actually expressing understanding toward this man who fired the shots. They say he did the right thing. They understand him. And these people in power are pushing us to this point. That's why I asked about it.
But 2 years of restriction of freedom, is that really the kind of sentence that an employee of the Territorial Recruitment Center should get for this?
8 million, having embezzled the money.
I'll explain to you. It just once again confirms everything you and I discuss on every show. This is a country for the privileged. They have privileges. This TCC guy is privileged. He can do it. Let's put it this way. He does it and he knows nothing will happen to him for it. There's protection, cover, mutual cover-up, and support from their own people. And an ordinary person today does something minor. You can't even call it a crime. But people are put in prison for a post on the internet. Compare that, please, and this is a blatant corrupt official. Tatiana, during wartime, that's all you need to know about the current state of Ukraine. They've turned it into a banana republic, our magnificent country. Bandits are in power. They've let bandits loose everywhere. And now these small-time bandits are watching the big-time bandits. Look, they're doing it. They're stealing on a large scale, so let's steal on a smaller scale here. Well, look, for ordinary people, 8 million hryvnias is an astronomical amount of money, but for people like Zelensky and Yermak, it's nothing. So these guys think, let's strike while the iron is hot. The war never ends. I'll just repeat Budanov now, or rather, he repeated me back then, but I'll repeat him and in a way myself once again. No country in history has ever gained anything good for itself during an active war, never prospered, only decayed and became worse. And it also led to something even worse, like a demographic catastrophe, division, discord, and civil war. Nothing, just wait with the war, and the war can be stopped. Only as we see now, Zelensky is not going to do it, so Zelensky needs to be replaced. Or the parliament, as we also discussed, should take matters into its own hands, act without waiting for the war to end. That's fine. So first Zelensky, second, ending the war, then democratic elections, and after that, it's up to the people and the politicians they choose to represent their interests. But without these components, nothing will happen, no matter what we discuss here.
Every day we discuss the same things, and people sometimes say that we're just going in circles, but that's exactly what's happening.
But recently he said, Zelensky, and a deputy confirmed it, that we should prepare for 2 to 3 years of war. So Zelensky is determined that this parliament will continue to exist. So, Zelensky himself, as you say, does not plan to change the government, and the parliament is capable of existing in its current composition for another 2 to 3 years.
But I don't believe it. I can only give you a litmus test. What should we be watching for? If the parliament digs in and refuses to vote for this so-called IMF law on raising taxes under any circumstances, then we can state that there is a serious split. Based on my information, there is a split as of today. They will not vote for this and nothing good awaits Zelensky. In other words, a direct confrontation has begun. But if somehow with a miraculous suitcase of money or something else they are influenced and we see the parliament vote for it, then know that Zelensky has succeeded. So, for 2 to 3 years, these deputies have been set on causing trouble, and they were pressured. Let's put it that way, they were pressured. So watch this vote closely, keep an eye on it.
Reach out to the deputies, call them, write to them, talk to them, contact them.
Yesterday, Viktor Orban made a statement that Hungary will stop supplying gas to Ukraine.
If in the summer this might not be catastrophic for us, in the winter it will be catastrophic because we need 70 to 80% of the gas to be imported.
The reason is this. We blocked the Druzhba pipeline. They are not getting oil, so why should they transport gas to us? How would you comment on this?
No way. Orban keeps doing what he does, playing his cards, and for Ukraine, this is all bad. Could this have been avoided? Of course, yes, by building different relationships with neighbors, not getting involved in other people's political games, not turning everything into something personal. So Zelensky has personal issues with Putin, Zelensky has personal issues with Trump, Zelensky has personal issues with Orban. So what, Ukraine is dealing with the consequences of these personal issues? Yes, I already told you, go as a private person with anyone you want in the world, get involved and sort out your personal issues. Why? Should Ukraine suffer because of this? But people even enjoy it. Right now, our enemy is not Zelensky. but there are still a lot of active people out there for whom Zelensky is the enemy. They've already realized that he's more like an enemy of Ukraine, let's put it that way, but they're actively stirring up the crowd, and many people are falling for it. Most people are still falling for it. Orban is bad, but why should Orban be good for Ukraine? Orban should be good for Hungary. We've already discussed this with you, but people don't want to look at the root of the issue. Look, not a single president, even of a country at war, has ever behaved like this, and especially in Europe, look, no one behaves like this. It's the same reason here, Zelensky, and you understand, I want to emphasize again, I'm not demanding early elections. It's a coup d'etat. The person is ruling unconstitutionally, has been in power for 7 years. We have nothing but problems, all because of him. A healthy, normal society can't mentally react to every international failure and rudeness from Zelensky. What? How great we are? Otherwise you've turned into Russians? Anyone who thinks that has it backwards?
Nod says that we won't be given weapons because he says Ukraine has opportunities and even better weapons than Germany has, so they won't give us weapons. Zelensky says that we will strike back at the Russians because the Russians are talking about destroying Ukraine's water supply system.
That's why he gave the order to protect the water supply system, and in response we will strike back.
How will this end? How can we avoid what happened with the energy sector? We've already seen that this has happened with the energy sector.
Europeans are also allocating money to protect water systems. How can we control this and ensure our safety?
It's absolutely impossible to control the authorities. Just get that idea out of your head. People can't prepare for something like this on their own because it's on a state scale. You can't just put an armored plate on your apartment and expect to stay safe. These are centralized matters, and the responsibility for their preservation lies with the state. So Merz and Taurus, just type something like Germany will give Ukraine Taurus and Merz into Google, and you'll find several quotes from Merz there. Ukraine will get Taurus, Ukraine will get Taurus, we need to bomb Russia, Ukraine will get Taurus. Today he says that Taurus is not needed, they have their own missiles. We're being set up once again. Moving on. Today, Rutte said once again, for Ukraine, this is very important, Ukraine will not be in NATO. They asked him a counter question, but he dodged when NATO cooperation came up. This is the 10th time over the past year we've been told we won't join NATO. This issue is no longer relevant. Even Zelensky has moved on, but Poroshenko still uses it to rally his supporters. Now, regarding this, it's extremely important. Now, regarding the water supply, I want to say once again that people need to prepare for the worst. And our intelligence knows this very well, both Russia's capabilities and these terrible plans of Putin. But ask yourself this question. If we had ended the war well, not 4 years ago, not 3, not 2, but half a year ago, would this be happening today? No, there wouldn't be such a winter, nor would this coming horror exist. And we predicted this. Remember, I said that winter is winter. Even back in the summer, they have terrible plans in Russia. And it would have been better if I was wrong. It would have been better if I was wrong. But unfortunately, everything is heading for the worst. And this bad thing, apparently, judging by everything, will happen very soon. And then people will curse Putin, and so will I. But only for the first 5 minutes. And then you need to keep a cool head. Wait, and then, if the war continues, will it happen or not? It will, and it will get worse. So the war needs to end.
Thank you. So, the deputies say that we can't just bury everything in the ground, meaning we can't protect these structures by simply covering them with concrete.
But we know that Europeans are giving money for this. They're not doing it thoughtfully. They'll redirect it elsewhere again.
Or is there some misunderstanding here?
You see, all these phrases can't be buried in the ground. Yes, I partly agree, probably. You see, if Europeans, Israelis, or Americans faced such a question, they would come up with something. Well, that's what I suspect, but in our reality, we can partly agree. But then, if we're thinking straight, if we're reasonable people, we wish Ukraine well. We have to ask, okay, what's the solution, Tatiana? And there's only one solution. To end the war, you see. When you end the war, then there's no more shooting. All these allocations, that's all. You already hinted yourself that this is going to happen. They will pretend, buy materials, hire some contractors, do some work, but they did the same thing with the energy supply, and people had an extremely difficult winter. They will do it now, and something will be repaired there. But Ukraine will still be in a terrible situation. Many cities in Ukraine, I think especially Kyiv, that's my suspicion, because Kyiv is the heart of Ukraine.
Recently, Politico wrote about Zelensky, mentioning that there was talk that Trump might cut off intelligence to Ukraine if the Russians didn't provide intelligence to Iran. Trump refused.
Zelensky noted this and warned that in the future we might not get intelligence data.
What do you think, considering that we are talking about today's systems, and he emphasizes this, and energy experts are also talking about it? This is a kind of manipulation, so that we still don't have this intelligence, so that Trump understands that the responsibility for these water systems will also be on him.
Or is it simply an awareness of the situation and already accepting it?
Let me answer this way. Why didn't Trump agree to this deal? And this offer from Russia, it's true, it really happened, even though there were denials, but it's true. Because Trump doesn't wish anything bad for Ukraine and doesn't want to become that way. No, even though he doesn't want to take Putin's side, the press and the Democrats will say, look, he took Putin's side, he cut off Ukraine. Let me explain what Zelensky is doing. He flew to Britain and France, which I mentioned. They offer their intelligence and say, why rely on America when we can handle it ourselves? Zelensky is doing everything now, doing everything as if to say, guys, I'm ready for negotiations, but I won't leave Donbass. He's setting up the whole situation so that the Americans will leave. At the beginning of the broadcast, I told you about Rubio, about Trump, about today's statement. He's setting everything up so that the Americans will leave, and then they'll say, well, look, you see, and then the Americans, God forbid, will cut off the intelligence data. People, you offered me capitulation. Look, I did everything for you. Look, this scoundrel Trump left, look, it's him who cut off the intelligence and this stupid society. Most people start, and Trump, what are you doing? Look, Agent Krasnov, agent of the Kremlin, they don't even try to use their heads. Right now, we have a question, Tatiana. There won't be another way, especially in light of what's happening in Iran. When Putin is raking in money hand over fist, there won't be another way. Either we leave Donbass or we don't leave Donbass, and that's the main question, but not the only one. Kolomoisky put it correctly in court. You see, here's what bothers me. You tell people things, some remember, but many don't. I once said on Canadian radio that you have to be ready for the most serious things like, for example, a change in the political map. I don't want this, I'm not calling for it, but I'm stating a fact. If we want to end everything, then we need to make, again, less painful decisions. Guys, you won't get half of Ukraine from us and we won't send you to camps. That's how things are now. We just need to admit it. We just need to admit it, and we need to bring this situation with Russia to an end. But if we, okay, let's set that aside. If we take just Donbass, I wanted to tell you that there won't be any other terms. I want it, you want it, everyone wants different terms, but those terms just won't happen. And right now, the war is being fought solely for Zelensky's power. There's no existential threat or risk of the front collapsing, but we're a bankrupt country, as we've discussed before. I see some people there who present themselves as military men, and maybe they are good soldiers. I'm not planning to fight anyone by any means. I'm not on the front lines, but yes, we could keep fighting for another 23 years. But on what information, on what knowledge are you making these statements? Well, tomorrow Trump could cut off intelligence sharing and people somehow don't take it seriously. And do you know that Trump could stop NATO from selling weapons to Ukraine?
But he says that they will keep selling. He also says that they will sell, Europeans will buy and send it to Ukraine. Yes.
That's it for now, but in 3 or 6 months things could change. Maybe. Who said they wouldn't? Right now everyone's running around. In Ukraine, they're sure that Trump is losing the midterm elections, but I want to tell you he's going to win them. The Republicans won, and Zelensky's next plan will collapse, and in Ukraine, they'll be cursing again. But time goes on, Tatiana, time goes on. Our lifetime, the most precious thing, something that can't be replaced. Time is slipping away, and some people prefer to waste it on some stupid posts. And these joys, it's not even clear what they are. Zelensky is speaking again today. Everyone is quoting him. He reports to the international community. We kill 35,000 Russians a month. We kill about 1,500 Russians a day, or 1,000 Russians a day. Why don't you tell us how many Ukrainians are dying in the process? And then we'll decide if we're satisfied, if that really excites us. That we kill 35,000 Russians, but if we're losing, no matter how many we're losing, believe me, we're not losing just 1,000 while killing 35,000. Our losses are also in the tens of thousands. Otherwise, why would they be mobilizing 400,000 right now? You've seen how the mobilization has intensified. Where did the previous ones go? Because there's no rotation, no rotation.
It's not for rotation.
It's to replace those who have been killed.
No one answers the question of where these people who are being mobilized are going.
If we mobilize 35,000 people in a month, Zelensky recently said that 55,000 have been killed. If we're talking about 400,000 people being AWOL, then where are the rest?
It's already more than 400,000, first of all. Secondly, just think about it. He announced that 55,000 have died during the entire war, while the Russians lose 35,000 in a month. Who in their right mind would believe that? Yes, we lost a colossal number of people just during the counteroffensive. According to my information, in Kursk alone, we lost 15,000 just in fatalities. I've heard so many stories about the missing. Kupri told me on air about how bodies aren't retrieved from the battlefield. It's all disgusting, you understand? A Ukrainian can't treat another Ukrainian like this, no matter who they are. And like this, on blood, on bones. To turn into such primitive people in the era we live in now, a technological era. Some kind of primitive people with some crazy aggression, with some kind of wild primal instincts. You understand, like in the jungle, come on, how is that acceptable? What will happen to Ukraine? You see, Tatiana, we're discussing all this right now. In Poland, someone is currently discussing economic growth, innovation, and progress. In Germany, despite difficulties, they're talking about solutions. And in Spain, where Sanchez is, they're also discussing constructive topics. I'm not even mentioning America. Everything is moving forward there. And in Israel, everything is moving forward no matter what. And we're discussing how some scoundrels want to enslave the whole country and others too.
We can't help but pay attention. Information has appeared that boys born in 2009 must register with the military by July 31, otherwise there will be a fine of 25,000 hryvnias. The state, they say, is reminding 17-year-olds that they have this obligation.
Is this just a formality in your opinion, or is it preparation for future mobilization where the mobilization age will be lowered?
Yes, anything is possible. Well, look, right now they're announcing plans. We discussed those 23 years to keep fighting. Do you think in a year it won't happen? The problem is there are no men left. From my own insider info, there's just no one left to draft. Why are they going after those in the reserve under this program? It's like they're grabbing everyone now. And why? Because you can't even go outside anymore. Your brigade was given a quota like catch 10 today, and they easily caught 10, but now there's no one left to catch. And now they're already going through the registries. Next, it'll be driver's licenses, then bank accounts, and then further lowering. I'm not exaggerating or trying to scare anyone. I don't like that. I'm just being logical. After that, it'll be women.
Regarding what you said, that Trump won't lose his political standing and that people will continue to support him, how would you comment on that in connection with the situation happening in Iran?
Because Trump has repeatedly stated that they are achieving victory there, and he mentions it more than once a day.
But we know that a 15-point plan was sent there. It was delivered through Pakistan. Pakistan says that if there are negotiations, they are ready to host these delegations. But Iran says they do not agree to these conditions and are putting forward their own.
How will this conflict end?
Well, I don't want to make such predictions because let's watch what happens around Kark Island. And there could be a very serious escalation, but there could also be a quick resolution. But Israel, instead of relying on the possibility that the conflict could end quickly through diplomacy, will now deliver the strongest strikes. Since it's still war right now, you can strike, which, by the way, is something Zelensky manipulates when he makes video addresses saying, "We've been shelled." Putin isn't planning to end the war, so everyone keeps getting bombed. You understand, no one plays noble during war. That's why Iran and America will win by overthrowing the regime. The main goal is to overthrow the regime.
Israel takes the same position as the Europeans do towards Ukraine.
Israel says, their Netanyahu, that the war cannot be ended so quickly. The goals have not been achieved. He is for continuing the war.
But at first, we talked about the fact that Netanyahu and Israel did not become the driving force that pushed Trump to attack Iran.
I'll explain to you, by no means should you compare the positions of Israel and Europe. So these are not just guesses, but Iran actually has the goal of wiping Israel off the face of the earth, the whole country, while Israel does not have the goal of wiping any country off the face of the earth. They don't plan to kill any Iranians. They're helping the people of Iran remove the regime. Europe faces no such threat, and despite criticism of NATO and others, they have great financial and military power. They just choose not to use it. You shouldn't compare this, because for Israel, their country is at stake. And that's why, of course, now if they destroy the nuclear program, deprive Iran of its nuclear program and ballistic missiles, then you would have set back Iran's military machine by 10 or 15 years. And that means during this time, Israel can further prepare itself. This isn't the last war. If the regime isn't overthrown now, this won't be the last war. That's why this is a very complicated region, but you absolutely can't compare it. Europe isn't facing any colossal threats. If they were really threatened, they wouldn't be playing these games with the US. They wouldn't be stingy about making 5% contributions to NATO, and they'd be producing ammunition, including gathering 50. We've already talked about this 100 times, collecting 50% in taxes and then ending up without ammunition. What is that anyway?
They pay 2% to NATO. Today, there was information that someone pays 4%, America pays a little over 3%, and the countries of the European Union mostly pay 2%. And
well, you understand, Tatiana, 2%, there are some who pay a lot. I think Lithuania or Latvia, someone pays over a full percent. But their GDP is about 50 billion, while America's is 31 trillion. So those, what is it, 3-4% that America pays, and even if it pays 5%, well, 31 trillion compared to 50 billion, those are very different things, you understand? So America's contributions to NATO are many times, dozens of times greater than the GDP of many countries that also make contributions, and yet those countries don't want to do anything, expecting America to do everything and just give. By the way, Canada only contributes 2% of its GDP. Well, that's obvious. It functioned well after World War II, when all these organizations were formed, NATO, the EU, and everything else, and things were moving along. Obviously, now we live in different times that require different solutions, and the war in Ukraine has shown that. It's a different kind of war technologically too. We shouldn't rely so much on the past. The world had a good 80 years, well, maybe not perfect, but normal ones. I read an article the other day saying that our parents' generation hoped that our generation would be happier. It turned out that our parents' generation lived more peacefully because they didn't experience any wars or pandemics. But I was born in the Soviet Union and I saw the 90s there too. So it turns out all these wars, the ATO, revolutions, annexations, COVID, and now this terrible war. And it also turned out that a dictatorship has emerged in Ukraine, something I never could have imagined. That's why the world is a harsh place right now.
it's very important for Ukraine to find its place in this world. And I really wish, truly wish, that we could live a normal life, because we've suffered a lot and many people have suffered. I hope for that.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you for joining our broadcast. Please subscribe to our channels, and if you want to watch short clips, please subscribe to the Liberty TV channel. Thanks for your attention. See you next time.
Thank you.